I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 7 years now. We met in college, and initially everything seemed perfect. She was the kind of girl who always knew what she wanted. A little bitchy, sure, but confident and sharp. We got married a couple of years ago, and for the most part, I thought we had a solid relationship. She's always been a little difficult, quick to lie and manipulate her way out of trouble, but I never really paid attention to the signs because, well, I was in love and kind of blind. Lately, though, I started noticing small things. She'd be more secretive about her phone, hiding it when I came into the room, deleting texts and taking calls in another room. She also started going out more often, claiming it was work or girls' nights, but I could tell she was lying. She'd come back late, smelling different, and her stories didn't add up. I brushed it off initially, thinking maybe I was just paranoid or overthinking after a stressful week at work. But then something happened that changed everything. I was organizing a charity event for the local kids' hospital, something I'd been passionate about, and I invited Lisa to help out. She seemed excited at first, even flirted a little with some of the donors, which I thought was fine. Then at the event, I introduced her to someone I looked up to for years, Chris Morgan. He's a well-known philanthropist, a real hero of mine, and I finally managed to get him to come to the charity. I was pretty proud that day. Everything went smoothly. After the event, I was feeling pretty good. We were cleaning up and Lisa was chatting with Chris, laughing, joking, being charming. I even saw them exchange numbers, but I thought it was harmless because Lisa's always been social. I didn't think much about it at the time. I trusted her stupidly, even though I had this gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. But the next day, that feeling turned into suspicion. Something just felt off. I kept checking her phone and I found messages. Not just friendly chat, I mean flirty, suggestive texts. They were talking about meeting up for coffee or a quick chat, but I could tell it was more than just that. I remember the moment I saw those texts like it was yesterday. My stomach sank, my hands trembled. I felt betrayed in a way I never thought possible. All the time she'd lied about being at work or out with friends. She was sneaking around with my childhood hero, the guy I admired so much, the one I introduced her to. It hit me like a punch to the gut. How could she do this? How could she lie and cheat right after I trusted her? I was furious, stunned, feeling like I'd been played for a fool. And I knew deep down I couldn't ignore it anymore. This wasn't just a fling or a passing thing. It was real, and it was worse than I ever imagined. That night I didn't sleep much. My mind kept circling around everything I'd found out. It was like a punch to the chest every time I thought about Lisa with Chris Morgan, my hero, the guy I looked up to, someone I thought was a decent, respectable person. Turns out he was just another cheat like her. And Lisa, she'd been lying from the start. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I could have been so blind. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty, and now I felt like I'd been living in some kind of nightmare. The next morning, I decided I couldn't keep this quiet. I needed to confront her. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew enough to be furious. I woke her up early, which she hated because she's always a little bitchy in the mornings, but I didn't care. I just looked at her and said, "Lisa, we need to talk. Now." Her eyes immediately narrowed, that typical dismissive look she always gives when she knows she's about to lie her way out of something. She sat up, crossing her arms, giving me that "what now" attitude. I laid out what I found, the messages, the exchange of numbers, her recent lies about where she's been. Her reaction. She rolled her eyes, scoffing, "Oh, come on, Jake. You're overreacting. It's just some stupid flirting, nothing serious. Chris is just a friend, I swear. You know how women talk. Sometimes we flirt just to make things interesting. It doesn't mean anything." That's her go-to. Deny, 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 even when it's obvious she's caught. I wasn't buying it. I could see through her bullshit. I told her I didn't want to hear any more lies. I was hurt, angry, and disgusted. I asked her directly if she was sleeping with him. Her response: "That's none of your business. You're just jealous because I'm talking to someone who actually has a life. That's Lisa for you, bitchy, manipulative, and full of excuses." She tried to turn it around, making me feel guilty, saying I'd been neglecting her, that I was too busy with work, that she was bored, that I didn't pay enough attention. But I knew those weren't real reasons. She was cheating, plain and simple. I felt my blood boiling as I looked at her. My mind was racing. What do I do now? Do I just walk away? Do I confront Chris? Do I even want to know what had happened between them? The betrayal cut deep, and I was angry at myself for trusting her for so long. I told her I needed some time to think, and I walked out of the room. That's when the real pain hit me, the feeling of being utterly duped by someone I loved and considered. My partner. Over the next few hours, I kept replaying everything in my head. The little things I ignored, her secretive texts, her late nights, her changing stories suddenly made sense. I started feeling numb, then furious, then hurt. I couldn't believe she'd do this, especially with someone I'd admired since I was a kid. Someone I introduced her to. The thought of her lying and sneaking around with him made me want to scream. I was stuck between wanting to confront her again and just walking away, but I knew one thing: it was over. Just like that, my entire world felt shattered. I had trusted her blindly, and now I realized she'd been playing me all along. I knew I had to make a decision, but honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. Part of me just wanted to pack my things and leave, to erase everything and pretend I never knew. But another part, the part that still loved her, or at least wanted to believe there was something left, kept hesitating. I spent the next day trying to piece everything together, going over all the evidence I found, trying to understand how she could do this to me, how she could betray me after everything we'd been through. That evening I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed to know just how deep this went. Was she just messing around with Chris, or was there more? I set a trap. I left my phone somewhere accessible, hoping she'd slip up, and I stayed alert. Sure enough, about an hour later my phone buzzed. I saw Lisa's name pop up on the screen. My heart started pounding. I hesitated for a second, then grabbed the phone and looked. There it was, more texts, more than I expected. They were talking about meeting up again, claiming they had to see each other, and Lisa kept insisting, "Don't worry, I'll tell him I was busy, but I really want to see you." My stomach twisted. I can't describe the rage that flooded through me. I felt like I was losing control. This wasn't some innocent flirtation, it was outright cheating, right under my nose. I knew I couldn't confront her right then. I needed a plan, a way to catch her in the act, or at least get her to admit everything. I decided I'd wait until she came home, then lay it all out, confront her face to face with the evidence. That night I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to keep my emotions in check. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. When she finally got home, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to be relaxed. She walked in, looking smug, like she knew she had me wrapped around her finger. She greeted me with her usual dismissive attitude, trying to act like everything was fine. I just looked at her and said, "Lisa, I found your messages. I know everything. The flirting, the meetings, the lies. I want to hear it from you. Are you sleeping with Chris Morgan?" Her reaction. She froze for a second, then scoffed, "Oh, please, Jake. You're overreacting. That's just some stupid flirtation. Nothing's happening. You're just jealous because I'm talking to someone who actually gives me attention." That's her. She's good at turning things around, making me feel like I'm the crazy one, like I'm overreacting. I felt my hands clench into fists. My mind was racing. I was furious, but I also felt a strange wave of sadness. How did it come to this? How did I let her manipulate me into thinking I was crazy? I wanted to believe her, even as I knew deep down she was lying. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, she'd come clean and tell the truth, but I knew better. There was no coming back from this betrayal. Not really. I told her I needed space, that I couldn't stay in the same house anymore, and I told her I'd be leaving soon. That moment was one of the hardest in my life. I looked at her, that bitchy, manipulative face, and felt an overwhelming mix of heartbreak and rage. I had trusted her, loved her, and she had thrown it all away for some secret fling with my childhood hero. I realized I had to think about myself now, that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. Moving forward was the only option. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew I needed to get out of this toxic mess. Whatever it took, I was done being played for a fool. The days that followed were a blur of emotion, anger, sadness, confusion, and a kind of numbness I couldn't shake. I spent hours packing up my things, not even caring about the mess I was leaving behind. Every box I filled felt like a small victory, a step toward reclaiming some piece of myself that she'd stolen. I kept replaying that night in my head, wondering how I'd let it get this far. How did the woman I trusted so completely turn into someone so cold and manipulative? The worst part was realizing I'd been blind for so long, ignoring all the warning signs because I wanted to believe in us. Once everything was packed, I sat alone on the floor of our empty apartment. I remember feeling this strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I finally saw the truth, and heartbreak because I was losing someone I'd loved for so many years. The betrayal ran so deep that I wondered if I'd ever trust again. I kept thinking about Chris Morgan, how he'd always seemed like the good guy, the hero I looked up to. Turns out, he was just another piece of the lie. I felt stupid for ever thinking he was different, for ever thinking she was different. I knew I had to tell someone about this, get some perspective. I reached out to an old friend, Mark, someone I'd known since college. I told him everything, and honestly, his reaction was a mix of shock and anger. He told me to confront her again, to get her to admit everything. But I didn't see the point anymore. I knew she'd lie her way out of it like she always did. The damage was done. The trust was broken. All I could do now was figure out what was best for me and move forward. The hardest part was the emotional aftermath. I felt humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool right under my nose. Every time I saw her face, I'd remember the lies, the cheating, the betrayal. It made me question everything about us, about myself. How could I have been so naive? How could I not see that she was capable of doing something so cruel? It was a slow process, but I started to realize I deserved better. I deserved someone who wouldn't lie and cheat behind my back. I deserved honesty, loyalty, things she clearly never wanted to give. One night I decided I needed to confront her again, just to hear her lie one last time. She was trying to act like nothing had happened, acting bitchy and dismissive as usual. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I know the truth. I know about the meetings, the texts, the nights you spent with Chris Morgan. I want to hear it from you. Are you sleeping with him?" She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said, "God, Jake, you're pathetic. I wasn't cheating on you. That's all just some stupid misunderstanding. Chris is just a friend. I don't know what you think you saw." That was her typical response. Deny, deny, deny. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I was done, that I wasn't going to stick around and be a part of her lies. I told her I was going to leave and that I didn't want to see her face again. Watching her turn to her usual bitchy smirk, I felt a cold rage settle in. I realized how much I'd wasted on someone so manipulative. I also knew that, no matter what she said, I couldn't go back. Trust was gone, and there was no fixing that overnight. I just wanted out of that toxic mess and away from her lying face. That night I left the apartment for good. I didn't want to keep this going anymore. It was dragging me down, and I wasn't going to be her fool any longer. As I closed the door behind me for the last time, I felt an odd sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. I knew I needed time to heal, to rebuild myself. Right then, I realized the betrayal had changed me forever, but I also knew that I was better off without her. It was a brutal lesson, one I wouldn't forget, and I was finally starting to see that I deserved honesty and respect, not the lies and betrayal I'd been fed for so long. After I left the apartment, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. The first few days were the hardest, sleeping poorly, constantly replaying everything, questioning if I'd ever really known Lisa at all. Every little thing reminded me of her, her bitchy attitude, her lies, the way she manipulated every situation to her advantage. I found myself angry at her, but also deeply hurt. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the fact that I'd invested so much in her, in us, and she'd thrown it all away for a fling with Chris Morgan, someone I'd once looked up to. I told myself I'd be okay eventually, that I'd get through it. But every time I saw her face or heard her voice in my head, I felt a sting of betrayal that wouldn't go away. I started to realize I'd been living in her shadow, trying to please her, to make her happy, while she was secretly sneaking around with my childhood hero. How could I have been so blind? How did I not see that she was just using me all along? Those questions tore me apart, made me question everything about my own judgment. I decided I had to take a step back from everything, cut contact, focus on myself. I threw myself into work, tried to keep busy, but honestly nothing could fill the void Lisa left behind. I started seeing a therapist, just to process everything. It was a relief to get the truth out loud, to hear myself say that I'd been played, that I'd been stupid for trusting her so blindly. My therapist told me I'd need time to heal, that I'd have to rebuild my confidence and learn to trust again. Over the next few weeks, I slowly started to rebuild my life. I moved into a new apartment, started hanging out with friends again, and refused to let her poison my mind. But there was a part of me that couldn't let go of the anger, the feeling that I'd been used and discarded like yesterday's trash. I wanted her to know how much she'd hurt me, but I knew that confronting her again wouldn't change anything. She was good at lying, good at manipulating, and I didn't think she'd ever admit to what she'd done. One day, I decided I needed closure, not for her sake, but for mine. I reached out to Chris Morgan, the guy I once admired. I wanted to know what kind of person he was, what made him think it was okay to cheat with your wife, especially someone I'd introduced to him. I sent him a message asking him directly. His response was cold, dismissive, full of excuses about bad timing and not wanting to hurt anyone. I didn't bother replying after that. I figured I already knew the truth. He was just another liar, another cheat. Looking back, I realize how much I've learned from this mess. Trust is fragile, and I should never have taken it for granted. I've become more guarded, more cautious about who I let into my life. Most importantly, I've learned that some people are just not worth it, no matter how much love or trust you give them. Lisa was a lesson I won't forget. Never ignore red flags, never dismiss your instincts, and always cherish yourself enough to walk away when someone betrays you that badly. I don't regret leaving her. I regret ever trusting her at all. But now I'm finally starting to rebuild my life piece by piece, and that's what matters most. It's been a few months since I packed up and walked out that door, and honestly, I've never felt so damn free. The pain is still there. It's always going to be there, I think. But it's different now. It's not the raw, bleeding wound it once was. It's more like a scar, a reminder of what I've been through and what I've come out on the other side of. I've learned some hard truths about trust, about people, and about myself. I used to believe that love meant never giving up, but now I see that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away before you get even more hurt. I've started dating again, cautiously. It's strange, trying to trust someone new after that betrayal, but I'm taking it slow. I still have moments, times when I catch myself thinking about Lisa or Chris and feel that old anger bubbling up. But I remind myself that I deserve better, that I'm worth more than the lies and betrayal I endured. I've also realized how much I took for granted, my own happiness, my self-respect, and I'm working on rebuilding that. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I also know that I can't change the past. All I can do is learn from it. That girl Lisa, the one I married, she was never really the person I thought she was. She was manipulative, selfish, and relentless in her lies. And Chris Morgan, just another one of her pawns. Seeing it all clearly now, I feel a strange sense of relief, like I've finally woken up from a nightmare. If there's one thing I want to say to anyone reading this who might be in a similar boat, it's this: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags, even if you love someone, because eventually the truth will come out, and when it does, you'll have to deal with the fallout. Love should never feel like a trap or a battlefield. If someone is cheating on you, lying to you, or manipulating you, the best thing you can do is walk away, no matter how painful it is. You are worth honesty and respect. You deserve someone who values you, who treats you with dignity. I've learned that in the end, the only person who will truly take care of you, really, truly take care of you, is yourself. And no matter how much it hurts to see the betrayal, to see what she did with my childhood hero, I know now that I am better off without her. I am finally finding my way back to being whole again, stronger, wiser. That's all anyone can ask for.